from a moral standpoint, from a, I guess, cultural standpoint, from a racial standpoint. I don't think that the issue is more about, a race war. I think it's a cultural war. I think it's an ideological war. There are many that are on, I guess the right, conservative Republican side that are Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, that are just tired of the nonsense.
Welcome to Acts 2and42. Real discussions, real opinions, real stories and testimonies, real church talk. Welcome to Acts 2and42. Connecting audio. Paul, what's going on, man?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. My man, Keith.
What's up, man? You've been lighting up the comments, have you? I'm glad you finally got on here.
Oh, definitely, man. Hold on. I gotta make sure I get off the YouTube portion because I don't right. Mix it up real quick. But so I mean, good. How you been? I thought you were on like some sort of sabbatical with Facebook.
I was
for a long time. I'm like, where my man Keith at?
Right.
I was concerned about you, brother. I was concerned about you.
Man, I was saying earlier when we started this off that not just social media, but even the podcast that we do and the YouTube channel. I left social media for like 2 months now, and like other, in this day and age, you got to get on occasionally to get something,
Right.
But other than that, man, I would see the feed and automatically like, nah, I got to get away from it. So
yeah, bro, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. Hello, Sharia. What's up, T? How you doing, man?
What's up, brother?
Are you the T Sock from Facebook?
Yeah,
that's the gentleman that I know from years ago.
The one and only, the infamous.
It's been the famous.
Right.
It's been a while, brother.
Yeah, God bless you, brother. It's been a while. Glad to see
man.
your face, and glad to be a part of this podcast, man. Glad to be a part of this podcast. Is that the lovely wife?
Yes. Yeah.
How you doing, Miss Sharia? God bless you.
Yep.
Did I say everything? Sharia. Okay, I'm sorry. Nice to meet you.
I joke around with her all the time. Everyone reads her name and says Sharia.
Okay.
So,
well,
not Islamic.
You got my wife correct though. You got Davin correct. So that's
Davin.
You get kudos for that. So I'm gonna let my wife know that so she won't give you no demerits.
I think I got a complex. I'm always worried about butchering somebody's name, so but I appreciate that. That's cool.
Yeah, no problem, brother.
Ebony, T. Ebony said what's up in the comments.
What's happening?
Sheree, Ebony said what's up in the comments. So, Paul, since you're the guest, I'll just go ahead and ask you, would there ever be a Democratic candidate that would get your vote?
Are we talking based on platform or locally or federally?
You tell me.
Okay,
so you tell me.
To be honest, I cannot see myself ever voting for Democrat with the knowledge that I have now, unless there were a few things that they radically changed. Number one, when we talk about religious freedom, talk about abortion, we deal with, Second Amendment rights. I think those are three core principles that I have that if you're against that, I can't rock with you. The Democratic Party for the last couple of years they've gone so far to the left. They're like in the woods somewhere with their views, the cancel culture, I'm from New York. So for me to see, the current governor sign a bill or executive order or pass legislation last year, 2 years ago, where they say that, it's okay for you to abort your child up until the ninth month. Like, I struggle with that from not even from a Christian standpoint, but just from a moral standpoint. Even if I was not in Christ,
human,
still struggle. Like, wait, how do you just rationalize killing a child, not only at 6 months, but up until like 5 minutes before they're about to give birth, like to come out the womb? Like, how do you legislate that and then cheer it? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they just said it, but they were actually clapping in their chamber like it was a good thing. Like, come on, man.
Right.
So for me, like the liberals, Democrats, like there's no way. Now in Louisiana, you have your blue dog Democrats. They pro-life, they pro-gun. They just have more socially, they're more social when it comes to their policies. And maybe I could flow with that. But as far as the current platform, the current ways now, there's just no way. I just, and we can keep it 100, right? We're gonna keep it 100. I just don't see how, for real, I don't see how a Christian in 2020, doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter your pigmentation, how a Bible believing, God fearing, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, theologically sound believer who is waiting for the return of Jesus or who living the life of Christ could actually knowingly support a party that has a platform that removes God, supports abortion, and is making every immoral act under the sun a part of their legislation. Like, I struggle with that. And so when I'm on Facebook and you probably get on my page and you probably see the fire, that comes down, man, it's crazy, but when I see Christians supporting that, I get turned for a loop. I'll give you an example. I was in New Orleans about a month ago. I had to go for and the reason why I bought the property tax thing, because I'm into property tax. I deal with I'm a consultant for property property personal property. Gotcha. So I was in New Orleans for a hearing, and I was at the hotel and I got a phone call from a brother. He's a bishop. He's out there. He's out in Ohio. Good friend of mine. I respect him. I kind of, we're the same age, but when I was in Christ and he was in Christ, I kind of looked up to him because he represented, just how I thought that a Christian should reflect, in his day-to-day life, so, but my man called me up, Keith, and was like, yo, bro, what's going on with your man? So I'm like, I just woke up, I'm getting the crust out my eyes, I'm like, my man, what you talking about? Oh, what's going on with your man Trump? I said, what about him? And then he brought up something that happened about the coronavirus, and you heard about how they said he knew how deadly it was, but he wanted to kind of keep it under. We could go into that as well with that whole thing, but so I saw so I responded to him, and we go into a conversation, and then he says to me that the reason why he voted Democrat, he's been voting Democrat because he says when he was young, every time there was a Democrat in office, his family ate. And I said, okay, I can respect that. Okay, that's what you say. And he said, not only that, but I look, from Clinton, because he was a former cop, in NYPD cop, Clinton, when we were Republicans, I was struggling. But when we got Clinton, man, I was getting this, I was getting that, and I was doing well. Even when we had Obama, my wife and I, we were making so much and so much cake, thousands and all that stuff. So I said, all right, I get you. But I think that when I hear what you're saying from an economic standpoint, and even with the economic standpoint, you really have to look locally more than federally. So if you're in New York, by the way, in the 90s, it was Giuliani, who was the mayor of New York City, who was a Republican, who I didn't like, you know what I'm saying? But when I look back now, I'm like, yo, this guy was a G. He really held it down and brought New York City out of the pits, the cesspool that was in. Because anybody knows New York was the worst in the 80s and the 70s. It was not like, I'm from Staten Island. So whenever my parents said we had to go to the city, which is Manhattan, it was said with dread. Like, oh, we gotta go to the city. Because that's how bad it was. You know what I mean? Like, that's how the crime, the assaults, the murder, the rape, the gangs, it was a bad place to be in, living in New York at that time. So Giuliani comes in the 90s and he cleans all that up. NYPD get more cops. He starts getting more bumps in his pay as a cop. So I told him, I said, yeah, you gotta connect the dots with Giuliani. You can't go to Clinton on that. You know what I mean? That was your man Jules on that. That was your man Jules. So as we're talking, we go into the, I don't want to take up too much of your time because I want to have this dialogue.
You're good. Yeah.
As we're talking, I said, bro, like as a man of God, as a leader, as someone who supports biblical values, and I've heard you preach, I've been to your church, we've fellowship, we've done conference calls and all that stuff. You hold a strict biblical view. You don't waver. So I'm trying to see, how do you, compartmentalize your biblical Christian character and your lifestyle
Right.
with how you vote in the electorate, in the political scene. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. So I brought up the whole abortion issue. It's like, well, as a leader, we can't tell people what to do and all that good stuff. I said, true that, but time out. Time out. We're not telling them what to do. We're showing them what the Bible says, right? And if a believer in Christ cannot defend the most vulnerable, then how can we defend those who may be justified in getting the right justice they need to deserve? Because as intercessors, as people who have passion, forgiveness, and mercy, and all that stuff, because Christ gave it to us, if you look at a woman in the womb and say that child is not worthy of your prayer, is worthy of life, then how do we justify anything else? The moment the most vulnerable becomes, the moment life becomes subjective, everything else falls apart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, when it's subjective, like, okay, well, that's, it's pro-choice, so she has a right. So, okay, that's true. But as a Bible believer, what do you believe? And who do you support? And who should you support in the political arena when it comes to those principles? If you're going to say, well, pro-choice and all that, and I want to make more money, so I'm going to vote for the left, who egregiously supports all those things, how can I look at you with the respect?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm keeping it a stack. Like, this is the reality. You know what I mean? We've come to a point where Christians can't be playing defense.
Right.
We've got to, for Christ we live, for Christ we die. You know what I'm saying? We stand upon the rock of ages. So if it's not biblical,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Then we gotta, like, I'm not seeing that. I don't care how good you look, and it's the same way in our churches. If our pastors start preaching doctrine that's false, we have a right to confront our pastors, our leaders, and all those. And if they continue with the false doctrine,
an obligation. It's an obligation.
Thank you, brother. It's an obligation. It's a duty. It's a duty. Right. So now
the Bible says, rebuke not an elder, but they stopped there and it said, except it be at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses.
Exactly.
So and that's honestly, that's the biblical standard for anyone. So,
right. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you can't, correct or rebuke. You do it out of love and you honor and respect those people.
Right.
But if they are in error, and I like, I'm not a huge fan of Lincoln. I think it was a mixture of good and bad, but nonetheless, but good quote is, when a man's, in the truth, I stand with the man. When the man leaves the truth, I leave the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a biblical thing, but I think it definitely reflects biblical principle, that we're on the side of Christ. We're on the side of truth and righteousness. And, I like you said, keeping it in the stack, keeping it 100, and just saying, look, and that's been my whole thing, is I'm not wanting to throw shade, not wanting to disrespect. I try to invite people that may be more liberal, more vote Democrat, vote for Biden, or whatever it is, to hear their idea, not to challenge it, but to hear them. And like, all right, so here's what challenges me as a Christian, here's not blue dog, not classic liberal, kind of in the middle, but some more social policies, like you said, but the party that has brought us, the things that are most ungodly, and like you said, not defending the most innocent, the most, the child in the womb. How do you reconcile that? No shade, but how do you do that? And then that's where I come from with the question, that not that Republicans have it all together, but how could you vote Democrat, or could you? That's why I asked the question, could you vote Democrat? The only thing I could say is if for me, and Sheree, I'll get you and T to weigh in, is if it was, for those that are familiar with Tulsi Gabbard, I like some of the things she says. I think she's a genuine person. I think she's a genuine person, and I think that she's got the right idea. And she sees the problem with Washington. She's a Democrat, but she sees the problem with Washington and the Democratic Party. But I like a few things. But if it was like someone like her, and I knew there was like a Joe Biden Republican that was just as corrupt and just as, detrimental, then it would be a tough choice, but it would, I'm just trying not to be too dogmatic about it, but it is hard to say if it goes with all these other things that completely go against scripture. I don't know if I can vote for it. I just wouldn't vote for either one. I just couldn't do it. There is no option. There's no reasonable option, but Sheree and T, I mean, anything different from you guys?
I'm pretty much, I'm a mix between you and Paul. I definitely see where there could be a circumstance where the individual who is, quote, Democrat, actually lines themselves up more with what I believe. I don't think that the party would allow them to get that far, though. So I do think there's cases where I could support a Democrat, but I don't think it would get far enough to get voted in. And there are times where I think Trump's an anomaly because he's not your average Republican. There are a lot of times where I thought Republicans have been just as crooked, outside of Ron Paul, which is the guy.
He's not a Republican, though.
Right.
Nah,
he's really libertarian.
He's libertarian.
Okay, got you.
He did run as Republican, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because libertarians get no love. Libertarians get no love.
Right. That was his only option, but by nature he's libertarian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got you. And I do want to point out something that Paul stated. Just kind of like to boot. I definitely agree with if you can't support the weakest, the most vulnerable. And if you condemn them, then the guilty are certainly sure to follow. They're definitely right behind. And man, once you take a child's life and give that no value, you make that subjective, then everything else falls behind. It's like oh God, oh man, I swear it's Nietzsche. That said God is dead. And the reference was actually to, us killing God and us making our own belly, our own desires, making our God subject, to our feelings. And that's where it's at right now. And I think that's where the Democratic Party is. Everything is subjective, and it's when there's no absolute, when there's nothing I can point to, when there's nothing objective. We can all point to and say, okay, this is wrong no matter who's doing it. Then I really can't support you because I have that, that position as both, whether I'm Christian or before I was Christian, there were still certain things that were just wrong, but if you don't have that as part of your platform, if there's nothing objective, and then even with that, like Paul mentioned, the religious freedoms, you protecting the innocent. And just, being willing to stand for what's right, not stand for what's expedient. If that's not part of your platform, yeah, exactly. If you can't do that, then honestly, outside of just being Christian, I can't rock with you because you have no spine. You can't shift with the wind. And when the crowd says, "Oh, we don't like that," y'all change your tune. So I don't think for those.
We think being Christian means that we have to be perceived as a nice person, like by society standards, we'll say.
Yeah.
Like that's not a very loving thing to do. That's not a very loving thing to say. And it's because you have this complete misunderstanding as far as who the man Christ was, and what his followers were to be and to stand for. So T, sorry, not to,
That's good. I did want to throw something to Paul though, because he had mentioned how he doesn't understand how a Christian can vote Democrat. And bro, like they watched the Lord heal among them, and the Lord heals him among them, and they were still moved to crucify him.
True.
And that blows my mind.
True.
But considering that also helps me to understand how. It helps me understand why, except the Lord keep you. except the Lord takes off the blinders, except the Spirit is with you, then man, there are many of us that could be deceived as well, that could be provoked, to against our own self-interest. Man, I see Christians now who literally advocate for open homosexuals and not open homosexuals in the congregation, but excusing the lifestyle in itself. Yeah. So it's not even like you're accepting someone in and trying to label with them, against that. You're literally saying it's all good. Don't sweat it. The Lord doesn't judge you, so I won't. It's like, well, hold on now. You're walking that person into hell, and you're doing it with the best intentions. You want them to feel loved. And I think that's why a lot of Christians vote Democrat, because it seems more loving. And Keith, we've talked about it before. Not many people, as I have, as you have, as clearly, Paul has, and as Sheree has, not many people think through their positions. They don't give the time and diligence to considering what they support and to considering the effects of what they support, especially when it's detrimental. We only think about the good that can come from it. Everybody's fed, and see, the Lord fed the hungry. And it's like, yeah, but the Lord didn't take from someone that didn't want to give in order to feed the hungry. Right. He just walk up to a man and say, give me your fish, so I can feed this other man over here, even though you worked for it. He said, give Caesar what Caesar's. So at the end of the day, I think that's why a lot of Christians, or that's why any Christian, could vote for Democrat. One, they have a very distorted image of Christ, of the Christian walk. There are a lot of things we didn't realize. So we started researching, early church history and the early church. Some of the church fathers. There are a lot of things that are missing. And when you look at Christianity today, a lot of it's prosperity teaching. Is don't judge. That's all Matthew says is judge not. They read judge not, and they'll quote that all day long and forget the rest of the scripture. They forget that Paul said, well, look, if we shall judge angels, are we not able to judge things pertaining, to this life? Are we not able to judge between our brothers? But nonetheless, they have this utopian, this very touchy-feely view of both who God is and what the faith is.
So we have. Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I do want to say that to follow up with T, just to clarify. That's why I said for the believer that knows. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, got you.
Not the one that doesn't know, but the one that is now been made fully aware of the information that's been presented to them. So they know what this platform or this party is endorsing and supporting and basically evangelizing. When you realize that that's what they're about, then that's why I said, how do you reconcile, like you said, how do you reconcile voting for that party, a party that has a platform that contradicts your biblical worldview almost on every point. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I ain't got no excuse for that one, brother.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So and that's why when I do speak with believers who happen to be and you said something earlier, like a few seconds ago, that a lot of what we have in I guess the church today, because everybody in the church is not in the part of the body of Christ. A lot of what we have in the church today are people who are just carnal and fleshly in all aspects. So it's just about the feel good. It's about, man, going to church, getting a shout, getting a little break dance, getting a nice little sugar-coated word. And then they leave and say, man, we had church today. I'm full. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that leaving you a spiritual diabetic. You know what I'm saying? So people are not, so we have that are biblically ignorant and that are just really into their feelings. So for me, when I present them the truth, like this is what the platform is. This is what the Bible says. And for those that know the Bible, how do you justify voting practices? For too long, like 50 years at least, you know what I'm saying? Like the Black community has been supporting the Democratic Party to our own disadvantage, to our own disenfranchisement, for years. It's been a part of the welfare, the high levels of fatherlessness in our communities, single parent homes, the welfare state, what I mean? Even with this whole with the abortion thing, like, what was it? I think someone said 80% or 75% of all abortion clinics are in lower income Black communities.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
and they don't care who Margaret Sanger was. They don't care what her agenda was. They don't care that it's not just a coincidence. You can say, oh yeah, well maybe she was racist, maybe it was a plan to depopulate or commit genocide on a people. But it's just a coincidence that it's right there in their neighborhoods.
Yeah,
their neighborhoods. Yes. That's a coincidence though. We're just gonna ignore that.
And it's amazing that Planned Parenthood called out Margaret Sanger and said, yes, she was a racist. Her vision was eugenics. Her vision, her goal, her purpose in life was to exterminate any people group that did not share her pigmentation.
Right. But if you'd like, you can make an appointment and we'll help you out. You can come on.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And so when I hear that, and then I hear people still overlook that, like, nah, it's all right. It reminds me of that in the scripture where with a man in the Bible, and when I say his name or when I mention the story, you're gonna know very well. There was a woman in the Bible that he fell in love with, and she was hired by her leaders to find out what his weakness was, and so that they can afflict him, they could torture him, and they could imprison him. You know what I mean? And basically make him a slave. And the crazy thing is that this woman, she went to him and said, tell me what your weakness is so that you may be afflicted. So she told him what her goal was. You know what I mean? And he lied 3 times. He said, man, you lied, man, you don't love me. You don't love me. You've been lying to me these 3 times. And she gave him the business to the point she kept pestering him. And because he loved her, he finally exposed or revealed to her the strength that God and the source of his strength. And because he broke that covenant, you know what I'm saying? She found out. She said, "Oh, wait, he's told me the truth." She cut his hair, began to beat the dude down. She said, he's really weak. She called and she called her leaders, and they dealt with him. And I correlate that with where we are today. Is that the information is available, the racist history, the racist statements, Margaret Sanger is now brought to you, and we're kind of like Samson to a degree where we're hearing it, but we're still overlooking it, and we're still choosing to rest our head on the bosom of our Delilah.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like a satanic code or Satan's code, to where before he leads you down the wrong path, he has to tell you that this is the wrong path. Like Christ on the mountaintop and saying, look, hey, come over here with me, and present options to you. He can do it in an enticing and subtle way, but I think his people, whether they know it or not, but his people today, oddly enough, seem to follow the same code where they're pretty honest about what they're trying to do. They may say it in a sweet way or kind of play with words, and it's a little deceptive, but it entraps you. It lures you in. It's cunning. So, man, awesome stuff. We've had Philip on the line here for a while, and I want to go ahead and introduce him. Get him to jump in the conversation. I'm glad to see him on here. So I don't know if you've seen or heard any of this so far, if there's anything you want to jump in and comment, or if so I don't know, is there anything you've seen or heard you want to jump in and comment, or just say hello?
No, I'm along for the ride. I'll just
my brother.
How you doing?
What's up, my guy?
All things good, bro. Really, all things good.
Awesome.
Good, man. Good to see you, brother.
Knowing that, this being election night and everything, and so all things kind of like political realm, political climate in this country, how do you feel with what's going on? Like, being what your job is, how do you feel representing the law? Is it feeling any different this year? Anything on your mind? Any worries or?
Well, I guess I guess, give background, I guess, the reason I joined the law enforcement is because I did see a downturn in the way that law enforcement, and I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. I want to be one of the ones that make a difference. Yeah, there are bad cops. Yes, there have been bad situations. And I think, in that climate, coming from my background, I mean, in the Marine Corps, there was no black or white. Everybody was green. You were either light green or dark green, but you were green. And so that kind of philosophy, really, coming from the South, I'm not scared of different cultures. There's Asian cultures are huge down there. I mean, obviously the black and white culture is big. I think this is crazy, but in my opinion, the farther south you go, the less blatant lack of love for the other culture persists. You know what I'm saying? So as you go north, it seems like the racial divide is more static. Like nobody crosses over. There's that neighborhood in the north, and this is the neighborhood that the white people go to. And I feel like in the South, where everybody in the north makes fun of the South, I feel like in the South there's more
Mingling.
Yes, more mingling, and I think that's a misconception. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of misconceptions about law enforcement. There's a lot of misconceptions about the black community. There's a lot of misconceptions about the white community. And we have these idiots in the media that love to perpetuate an idea for whatever reason. Either there's an agenda on their part or there's just blatant ignorance. That does not exist. I've grown up in a place from 1975 on where I feel like the collaboration of from everything from culture to food, which is a part of culture, but just the willingness to have a black business partner or to have a person that marries across racial divides. That stuff is way more prevalent and way more acceptable, which it should have been from a long time ago, than I've ever. I don't know what these idiots in the media are seeing and talking about when they talk about some of the the blatant stuff. Yeah, there's the sideways stuff. There's idiots out there. There's idiots out there on both sides. It doesn't matter. You're going to have an idiot.
Be careful with that statement. Be careful with those side statements. You're going to get branded.
You want to get flagged.
I don't know if you know the joke I'm alluding to, but
okay.
Trump's comment about there's good people on both sides,
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but there's idiots on both sides too.
Yeah, God have mercy to point that out. I feel like we came a long way. And some of that stuff I didn't even take part of, didn't even see, didn't even know about. And I still think we've got a long way to go. And the fact that we need to get over some of the agenda quotes, that are happening. And I think it's happening. I mean, you got people like the Hodge twins, you got people like Larry Elder, you got people like I mean, they're numerous. Colin Noir.
Yep.
I mean, these guys
Brandon
are coming
Tatum.
out of the woodwork, and Officer Tatum, Officer Baker. I mean, there are police department. There's police, or racial. What should I say? Ethnic police officers. Even from India and all that stuff. I mean, that's the fact that they are painting it the way that they're painting it is so disingenuous. of what is really going on in America.
Right.
And yeah, we should nip that stupid stuff in the bud when we see it, when we address it, and say, and really do what Martin Luther King said: address everybody by their content of their character. And when we do that, we get people like, Rochelle, right? That
Peace out.
I know a little bit of your story. You've been pretty open, Rochelle, about it. Is that how you say your name?
Chanel.
How's it?
He said no.
Chanel.
Chanel. Okay, so I know a little bit. You've been way open, and I love you, man. I've never met you before in my life, but the fact of where you've come from and what you've done and how you're overcoming, I mean, where else but in America could you have done that? Yeah, you started at a bad place. Yeah, you started lower than others, but look where you're at now, and that's all because of you. That's all because of your hard work, man. That's you seeing, you being different and being better and making a goal and shooting for it. And I know I know you've stumbled. I know you've been open about all those things. You're looking for a good woman. They're hard to find, but
yeah. Keith took the last one.
Yeah. So it can be done. It can be done. I know it can be done. We have the capability here to do the right thing. We are not so entrenched in some, ideology. They're lopping off people's heads in France because of, because of somebody got offended. That those people that are out there that decide to go and loot and rave and riot tonight, that's their same mentality. They are unfettered.
Wow.
They are unfettered in their desire to push their agenda on somebody. They are not happy unless they are controlling the momentum of whatever they want to accomplish. And I think they're up against a brick in a hard place, but there's a lot more. I mean, as soon as they start heading into neighborhoods, they're going to find out.
Yeah.
There's a
That's
whole
my guess.
different. There's a whole different world than corporate America downtown, where you can just bust the window.
Right. And corporate America is going to hold your hand and sing your praises while you do it.
Sure.
But you come to rural America and you're going to get a boot on your backside. So to put it kindly,
if you're lucky.
Right. I'm being definitely PG or whatever.
Yeah.
But so with you leading there or stopping there, with you pointing that out, I kind of joked earlier when we were talking is the media and different people make it out to be right-wing militias that are this great threat, and the right is going to riot if Trump doesn't get the election tonight, which is utterly fabricated. You're in law enforcement. I don't know if your ears to the ground and you can verify that this is what they're a realistic threat. But meanwhile, for 4 months, cities have been burning, aided by the left. The blue line, not blue line. Is it blue line? What is it? The Democrat funded, the Biden campaign funded legal aid and bail funds for the riders.
Oh,
yeah.
Blue something.
Blue line is like the law enforcement term of standing between, society and lawlessness. It's the thin blue line.
No.
It would be something different.
They've got a name for it, but it's basically how they fund bailing these guys out that are looting and rioting. And I think Glenn Beck has shared that there's information that there's over 200 leftist groups waiting in the across the nation for the results tonight to riot. That's not the right doing that. And like you said, and that's to the Christian. All this, there was only to have a conversation with Christians about all this going on from a Christian perspective. If you're a Democrat, we're not going to hold that against you. You know, if you vote a Democrat, you know, Philip, you pointed out they're ideologues that will burn everything to the ground, almost like they're not even listening. It doesn't matter if you come out waving the white flag. There's people that have yelled, "We're with you, we're with you," and they got the bricks thrown at them too, or whatever it was. You know, they don't care. It's groupthink mentality at this point, fueled by virtue signaling,
cancel culture.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I don't know, Paul, you want to double dutch in here and
just to I want to kind of backtrack real quick with what Philip said about the South. Like, so I'm from New York City, and so when I moved down here to Houston back in 2004, I was totally taken aback by the hospitality and the way that Black, Hispanic, white, how they just seemed to just flow together. You know, I mean, it wasn't, and you're from up north, so you know that there's that division between races and things of that nature. But down here, it's not like that. You know what I mean? So when my first experience, I was like, I was in Walmart, and somebody was walking by and they said, how you doing? I'm like, who are you? Who are you? But but then the Christ in me responded in a way, that was, like, man, how you doing? I'm doing fine. And I got accustomed to that. And then when I went back to New York, I realized that, I was going to a conference, and I went to the corner store to see my man, Ahmed, to get some toothpaste, and and I was like, "Hey, what's going on, Ahmed?" Blah 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 blah. Picked up my toothpaste, and I said, he said that, this was going to price. I said, "Okay, sir," and he mocked me because I said, "Sir." I was like, "Paul, you talking about sir?" And he ridiculed me. I was like, now I got to change my mindset real quick because of where I'm at. So I've noticed the racial divisiveness that we hear in media. You don't get that in the South. And I'm like, I'm in Texas, But
and where are those guys from? Where are those newscasters set every day? Washington, D.C., New York City, Los Angeles,
Philly, all these major hubs, liberal hubs, where violence and the racial, and the truth, they're all liberal sense, So these are the places where you would think that tolerance, inclusion, acceptance would be embraced. But this is where you get the most vitriol, the most toxicity, the most, anger, the most, racial, combativeness, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I kind of went off my train of, where you wanted me to lead, where you wanted me to be at. But yeah, I mean, I forgot. I kind of lost my train of thought, Keith. You got to forgive me.
No, you're good. Man, I don't know. I mean, it was all good. So if you left, it was a good direction. But you wanted to jump back and talk about kind of what he was saying about the South. The misconceptions or of what it's like in the South and your personal experience. Your lived experience.
Right. It's amazing to the point where I can never see myself coming back. And Texas is conservative. You know what I mean? So the ideology, the idea that conservatives are, the racist, white supremacists, the neo-Nazis,
it's a joke.
The degenerates of American society, so to speak, like they're so hateful. You get here and none of that, and so and even when you go into certain areas, whether it be Southwest Houston or, up in the North Side, you don't get that, racist or, I'm pulling you over because of the color of your racial profiling. I've never experienced that. Every time I got pulled over is because I was doing 85 and a 70, or 85 and a 65. It was something I did wrong in speeding, but like the racist history or the racist, tension that we hear so much about is not happening. And let's be honest, like that is not everybody's reality. No. So what we see in the media about how much there's so much racial divisiveness and and whites hate blacks, whites hate blacks and whites are thinking about blacks and looking for ways to oppress them. That's not our reality. You know, that's not, so when I hear people that are working in Fortune 500 companies, people that are, you know, that are lawyers, or that are accountants, that are, you know, stockbrokers or electricians or whatever their field may be, when I hear them speaking like that, I'm like, but is that your reality? Like I was talking to a friend of mine in Seattle. I'm going to keep it 100. I was a friend of mine. He was the best man at my wedding, actually. You know, he was doing the whole, you know, Black Lives Matter, and you know, and talking about how he has to, you know, teach his 3 boys about, you know, when they get pulled over by the police, and you know, and indoctrinating them about that fear, like you might get shot. And I said to him, because he's from Syracuse, he's from the hood of. The dude he was so dirt poor that he was under the dirt. That's how poor he was. That's how broke, you know, and I had the opportunity, you know, and then he went to, you know, to an Ivy League school, All-American, and, you know, and swimming, black guy, you know, and
Why you say that? Why you say that?
Huh?
Why you
not
say
too
that?
many, not too many black divers. Not too many high dive, you know, black all, you know, divers. So and he's
Those
probably
guys
watching
hate
right
the
now,
pool.
but Jesus is Lord. But you know, it's all good. Keeping it 100, you know. But I asked him, because as we were talking, I said, I hear what you're saying, bro, but is that your reality? Do you get up in the morning fearful of what the white man may do to you?
Right.
Because no, I said, in your lifetime, from the time that you were living up in Syracuse to high school to college, you know, to moving down to the city, to then moving to Portland, and finally moving to Seattle. Has that been your experience? When you get pulled over, do you fear for your life? He said, honestly, I don't. So I said to him, I said, so why would you, knowing that you live in a upper middle class area where the majority of the people that your kids go to school to are probably white or Asian. Let's, you know, so and in your community is mainly white or Asian. I said, so why would you teach your children, your boys, something that you have not experienced? Why would you train them? The Bible says, train up a child in their way he should go. When he gets old, he will not depart from it. Why would you train up your child to believe that cops, you know, innately want to harm you?
Right.
When
It's
it's
like
not
you
true.
raising them to have a chip on their shoulder.
Exactly. And not only that, but you're raising them that when they get pulled over, when the cops pull over, they're going to be anxious. And you know, whenever anxiety sets in or fear sets in, you start making illogical choices. You start doing things that are irrational. And you get the other person now looking at you kind of sideways, like, okay, what's going on? And it causes a series of possible series of events that could be just, you know, may not happen if we just train them to respect authority and to just do right. You know, and so he said to me, he said, man, you got a good point there. I said, yeah, I'm glad you realized that. But what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue to talk the narrative, the talking point, or are you going to change what you've been doing?
Right.
Because the thing is that now your kids are teenagers and one is an adult, one's 19. You know, so I don't know how long you may have been teaching them that, but, you know, you're just setting them up for conflict that may not have been a reality if you would have just trained them to this. Listen, I'm the son of an immigrant. My mom's from the South, from North Carolina, grew up in the Jim Crow South. My father's from the Caribbean, migrated here, you know what I'm saying, in the late 60s, you know, for a life, you know what I mean? And now I was raised in New York. So I got all three. I got that whole melting pot, you know, experience where South, up North, and immigration. You know, so all of these issues matter to me. You know, so when my father tells me, I asked my mom, I said, Mom, what was it like growing up in the South? Did you have to deal with, you know what I mean, white folks chasing you? Did you have to deal with, you know, drinking from this water fountain? And she said to me, to be honest, I didn't really go through that. You know what I'm saying? Like the way they are speaking, the way they're talking about it, like it was just so hostile and at that time, that wasn't my experience. And my father said to me, he said, I came here for a better life. You know what I mean? And I realized that coming here in this country, I didn't want to be weeding cane in St. Kitts, you know what I'm saying, for the rest of my life. And I wanted to do something new and hopefully have a family and build a family in America. You know, so when I hear the vitriol about how racist America is, and, you know, and how bad it is for people of color and all of that stuff, I don't know if you saw, but I'll probably send you a link, Keith. In Nigeria right now, they had people marching and celebrating Trump. Real talk.
Look, the third brother that was supposed to be joining us, and I haven't heard back from him. And normally, if that's the case, it's for a good reason. But he's a dear brother of ours. He's Pakistani. He's a citizen of America now. And just amazing guy. I mean, I always want to go on about him. He's my brother, man. But so I visited the Philippines also 2 years ago, and between him, those brothers and sisters from Pakistan, the brothers and the people I know in the Philippines, almost all foreigners I know love Trump.
Oh yeah,
love Trump. Like, his name's Emmanuel, the brother from Pakistan, and he had shared him and his wife voting Trump. I think his brother-in-law voting Trump. And I said, hey, if you want to join the conversation, we'd love to have you and see, why you did so, what your views are, being a Christian, why you went that way. But yeah, I mean, they mentioned Nigeria. Yeah, love Trump.
Yeah,
and not all of them, but
not all of them, but
right.
It's amazing that you see what's going on in another country about the president of your own country. People that don't have the privilege to even get here,
right,
are actually celebrating and honoring, a man who has. Let's be real. Trump's not perfect, but when we look at his policies, man.
Yeah.
When we look at what he's about, he's America first. Don't matter the color of your skin. He's like trying to make America great. And
that's xenophobic, isn't it?
Jesus Lord.
Forgive me, I don't want to play Satan. I don't want to be the agitator and the accuser and all, but I poke fun because that's the claims. That's how it's all
the claim.
interpreted.
Yeah, trust. Yeah,
because he puts, the nation that he's leading and its citizens and families and economy first, that is somehow a bad thing,
And who does? And what of a nation doesn't do that?
Right.
When did it become abnormal for the leader of a nation not to make sure their nation gets the best of everything, whether it's trade deals, whether it's for their citizens, whether it's standard of living? When did that become something abnormal in the political arena?
Go ahead.
No, I mean that's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me. I was dealing with a conference call, and I'm gonna let my man Philip follow up real quick. Where they're from Africa, and he's in South Africa right now, and he said that if he could come to the States right now and leave South Africa, he would have left 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He said, and as South Africa is, he said he loves the country, he's doing well there, by the grace of God. But he said America is just a different place. Mm-hmm. It's unique. You know what I mean? It's peculiar, so to speak, where everybody can come and have an opportunity of life. And for Black folks, this is the best place or the freest place that we could live. You go to certain parts in Africa, man, they still got slaves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like in the UK, they still got racism. I mean, certain places there's still blatant racism in certain countries. No. So I'm sorry about that. So we live in a country where all of the ability to thrive and to succeed is right at our fingertips. And we've come from 1775, from being slaves.
Yeah.
Abolition of slavery, to Black Code laws, to Jim Crow laws, to Civil Rights Act, to voting rights, all in 240 something years, to be the most free, I guess that's a word, the most freest Black people on the face of the planet. It's just, I find the idea that America is just so horrible to be either ironic or just stupefying to me.
Like you said, your friend saying, raising his son, and I hear it all the time. I got to raise my son to know, as a Black man growing up in America, what you're going to, like you had to kind of get to your friend.
Yeah.
But then you talking about the actual reality of being like probably the most blessed Black people that they're on the planet right now in this nation. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Phil, we had you lined up next to jump in there.
Oh, I was just going to piggyback off of what Paul was saying about the other countries. I think Trump has restored a new sense of respect for America within other countries. I mean, they were handing that to us, They were handing it to us. All of the tariffs, all of the special, well, I mean, us paying for a large portion of Europe's military might, per se. Hey, it's your country. Why don't you pay for it? And even with Kim Jong-un and China, they know that if they cross this dude, they're gonna to pay a price of some sort. And all that, I believe that Trump has kind of restored the civility of the trade with from border to border, that we're not taking it, in the teeth every day with what we're paying in taxes and what we're taking up as fees for us being a favored nation or whatever. But just pay your fair share. And I think he's restored that respect. I'm happy about that. Another thing I was going to talk about was, as a white man, as a police officer, recently, our deputy, I have also given my girls, I received the talk from my dad when I was a child about how I should handle myself at a traffic stop. I have also told my girls as a police officer, as a white man, how to handle themselves at a traffic stop. I think that's good parenting, Now the way that we do it may differ from family to family. And I understand the stigmatism that has happened. But once you start delving into, I believe that if you delve into the situations involving law officers dealing with a situation on the street, you're going to find that 90% of the time, 95% of the time, that law officer has a right to stop that person. Did he pick them out, haphazardly? Possibly, but did they have something going on? Did they have a light? Did they have a tail light out? Fix your tail lights.
Right.
Fix your headlights. Make sure you're not driving around, tearing up town, just drive civilly, and it's not taking away your rights to drive down the center of the road. It's not taking away your rights when somebody pulls your car over because it's smoking. That's part of the law, and they're doing their job. Now the situation comes, I read a meme today, and memes are memes, they are what they are, but I read a meme today. A lot of people are gearing up to go back to work tomorrow. A lot of people are wondering what the election is, going to hold. And then a lot of police officers tonight are wondering which one of their comrades are going to fall. That's
right.
a real situation that the law enforcement community deals with on a day-to-day basis. There are law enforcement officers that die in the line of duty doing what they're told to do, upholding the law, trying to uphold the law, do those things, and are innocently gunned down in those situations. And nobody raises a fuss because this is what we're supposed to do. This is what we hired on to do. We didn't hire on to get killed, We didn't get hired on to get shot at, and I didn't hire on to shoot at anybody. Mm-hmm. I have a tool on the side of my belt that enables me to react to a situation that is unfolding in front of me. I don't go in with my gun pulled because I have a gun on my side. I don't go in with my taser pulled because I have a taser on my side. I don't go in with my ass extended and beating people down. That's not what I do. That is a tool for me to use in the case of breaking a window, stopping somebody from hurting themselves. And the first thing you do as a law enforcement officer is you do not pull something that is lesser of an effect on a situation that is going to allow you to be vulnerable at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Somebody brings a knife to the situation. that guy can be 20. It's been proven over and over and over again.
Yeah.
21 feet. If that person within 21 feet, they are 1 second away from stabbing you.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Gosh.
I've
It's
watched the
1
footage.
second, 21 feet. And I'm not bringing a taser to a knife fight.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because a taser is not reliable. A
Yeah.
taser is reliable on a person that is going to hurt themselves.
Mhm.
A taser is reliable on a situation when the person may be not facing you and is going to hurt somebody else, and that you have an availability that you do not want to shoot the person that they're confronting, but you seek to stop the person that's the assailant. That's when a taser is deployed. Otherwise, if it's knife or a gun, I'm pulling a pistol and I'm going to defend myself. And that's what it's for. It's a tool to be used at the appropriate time. And I think, I would say the percentage is higher than 95%. I'd say 99% of the time, you have a lot of police officers that justifiably pull their pistol.
What do you think? Everyone wants to know, where do you think this is going to go? You know, how, like you said, it's nuclear. That's why, you know, we're not allowed to talk about, you're not allowed to say if you support the president or not. Or, you know, you have to support BLM or whatever the case may be. You can't question any of it. So the results of tonight or the next, 90 days, you know, whatever the case may be, any, you know, predictions or opinions, you know, from your perspective and based on your knowledge as far as the possible course of the nation, dealing with whatever may happen.
It's I think, and I'm going to make it's an opinion, because the prediction, you know, it would be like a God forbid type of prediction, right? But in my opinion, we are getting to a place, a point of no return. If the left, and you know, right now Democrats, I don't even know if that is the right name to call them anymore, because as the Democratic Party left from being what was considered the Democratic Party, and they're just considered liberal, socialist, communist, you know, that far left.
There's a lot going on there.
A lot going on there. So, if they continue to further go down that direction, my concern is, and like Philip was a former, I think you were a Marine, you said, right, brother? You were a military man. So
yes, sir.
I'm blessed to have people in my life that are also from the military, Army. You know, his godson is a former Army vet, and you know, he tells me that if it continues to go down this path, the concern is that you have the other side who are going to just basically, that point's going to break, and the backlash or the response is going to be swift, violent, and just ugly. You know, and that's not what we want as, number one, as a society. We don't want that. Anyone that's just at a moderate level of thinking or a moderate position, you don't want that. You know, and so if we don't try to bring that back in, and I'm hoping that this election, because I'm voting for Trump. I voted for Trump. Voted from last week. I'm gonna keep on it. I voted from, you know, basically straight ticket, either Republican or Libertarian, based on the platform that they stand on. So, and my wife voted for the first time last week as well. So, and I know she voted Republican as well. Salute to my wife. But you know, but if I'm hoping that that if and when Trump does win, it will cause the left to just have a serious wake up call to kind of in the next 4 years or 2 years of, you know, when they're, you know, so that they can be able to have open dialogue with, you know, those that are in their constituency, and also those who may not agree with them politically, but just have objective and open dialogue. There was a time where we did that. 15 years ago, we did that. 20 years ago, we did that. So I'm hoping we kind of got back to that point. If not, you know, it's just going to be a very hard time for this country from a moral standpoint, from a you know, from a moral standpoint, from a, I guess, cultural standpoint, from a racial standpoint. I don't think that the issue is more about, a race war. I think it's a cultural war. I think it's an ideological war. There are many that are on, I guess the right, conservative Republican side that are Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, that are just tired of the nonsense. So my opinion is that if they don't reel it back in, and I'm hoping for a resounding defeat. I mean, I'm hoping for a devastating defeat where they have to just say stop, pause.
Right.
I mean, everything they've done so far has been so off the wall. I mean, let's be honest. For the Democratic Party to provide us with the two worst possible candidates, represent them for president and vice president, it lets you know that they do not care what you think.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about your opinion. They don't care about the country. They don't care about their own citizens. They don't even care about their own party. It is about whatever their agenda is. So Biden, as a senior citizen, someone whose history, and for those who live in Delaware, his his history. So for someone that's had 47 years, almost 5 decades worth of political history, and you look at it from desegregation of buses to 86 crack bill to the 88 crime bill to the 94 crime bill, to there was another bill where he wanted what was that bill? I mean, everything that make us violently opposed. When I say violently, I mean from a political standpoint, reject him from his racist statements. They put up there. And then they took the same someone who had 2% political support, who got crushed by Tulsi Gabbard last year,
right.
and they made her the VP nominee. And so, so to put them up there and expect the people to just overwhelmingly support them just because they're Democrats is just an insult to our intelligence. So I look at that and I look at, remember, and everybody could probably relate, 5-6 years ago, there was a Netflix documentary called 13th, and it talks about the school to prison pipeline, mass incarceration, and this is systemic racism, institutional racism, and this was the outcry for since that documentary came out up until 2019. We were talking about it, and then so we get to the point where now Mr. Joe Biden becomes the nominee, and I'm hearing people saying, well, if they didn't want to do the time, they shouldn't have committed the crime. I get that, but that wasn't the reason why we were talking about systemic racism.
Right.
So I just find that
convenient.
It's very convenient. So it comes down to them doing an internal objective come to Jesus meeting, and they and their intervention and say, okay, we've been choosing the wrong candidates. We've allowed our cities and our states to burn to the ground with these riots and protests. We've been jumping on every police shooting when that involves a Black man and a white officer. We've to our detriment. We've been supporting the most extreme methods of come to abortion or illegal immigration. Policies that are just turning people off. We must now find a way to reel it in. If they don't do that, I don't see there being a Democratic Party in the future. I see something else maybe taking place in the Democratic Party, hopefully libertarian, hopefully, the independent party. But I see something else replacing that party because they're going to, in my opinion, they're going to just waste away. And I hope as believers that those who are in Christ and those who are supporting the left, that they themselves also get a little more educated and be sensitive to the information that is available to them. That's not hidden. It's all through, it's there. It's YouTube videos. It's documentaries. So not documentaries, but it's YouTube videos. It's independent journalists that are providing information. Just really seeking and getting the information about what is going on with this party, what's really going on in our society, and as believers, going back to a biblical standard, or as close to a biblical standard as possible, in our voting practices. And I think if we do that, we'll be better off. At the end of the day, Jesus Christ will be glorified, and he'll work it out for our good anyway.
Brother.
Yeah.
You are an optimistic man. You are a man of faith.
That's why I said opinion. I didn't want to give a prediction. I said opinion.
Right.
Because
and I'm not,
I see where it's going, Keith. I mean, it's like the handwriting's on the wall.
Yeah, and that's why I say I know you see it, and anyone that's not been heavily indoctrinated for generations that being liberal, being the Democrat is the moral high ground automatically, and the party of the people and not the party of the rich. And anyone that's been indoctrinated, it's really hard for them to wake up, and because they see what the far left is doing. Like you say, they see the things that they're saying, they see the things that they're doing, they see, like you said, they find the worst candidates for unarmed Black victims, the worst candidates, charging police, stabbing them, and that's the guy that you're, protesting about.
Mhm.
And I hear from Democrat voters saying, yeah, they shouldn't have done that, so, but they see it, but it's really hard to pull away from it. If I don't want to insult people saying indoctrinated, but I think that's what it is that's what it used to be, and that's what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the only reason I say you're a little bit optimistic for the church as well, as far as going back to a biblical standard. But no shade, church. I love you guys. So,
no shade.
Just kind of not being a realist, but I think the party's gone, and I think that's why they're pulling out all the stops. And I'm going to link. I got to credit T. T's already. Chanel, T-Sock. I always joke, man, by many names, but he's always, put me on to stuff, and I'm way behind him. He'll see this great article, this great report, and when I finally get around to it, I'm like, man, did you see that? That was crazy. He's like, yeah, I told you, but it was Glenn Beck's Biden's first 100 days, and it deals with their agenda, pre 2020. This was during the Obama administration, but it shows like what their plan actually is to do is to fundamentally change the United States government, period. In their favor, so they never lose another election. So the Supreme Court is liberal, is progressive, not in a good sense, and so I think the controlling members of the party, they don't care about Tulsi Gabbard. She ate her alive. She ate Kamala Harris, alive. And she's a far better candidate, but they don't care what our Democrat Christian brothers and sisters or relatives may find a good candidate to be. They want who's going to serve their interest. Which, like I said, may happen on the right as well. But nonetheless, but that's definitely where the party's going. Deep state. It does exist. It's been uncovered. It's been reported. And I like I said, I'll link a bunch of things if you want to check out Biden in Ukraine, Biden in China, Russia. Man, all of this stuff, the deep state connections, it's all been exposed and it's all documented, well documented. I don't see them. I don't see them doing what you say they ought to do to prevent things from going that route. I think they're pushing it that route. And like you said, they're pushing it hoping that the right fights back, because they're trying to convince everyone the right is this terrible militia group that's going to start a civil war. That's why they keep poking you in the chest and poking you in the chest and poking you in the chest saying, do something. Like I said, meanwhile, they throw a Molotov cocktail in your grandmother's house and no one says anything. They run up on, in your house and they're acting like it, burning behind me, but it's mostly peaceful. It's absurd. So, I know I've definitely beat my gums, but Philip, anything as far as where you see things going from here, thoughts, concerns in response to me or Paul?
Oh, well, first of all, I want to appreciate and thank you for allowing me, on your podcast tonight. It's a great honor of mine.
Likewise.
And T, thanks for sending me out the invite. I appreciate it, buddy.
My brother.
I I hope I haven't offended anybody with, my perspective or anything of that sort. I'm still open to, I'm 45, but I know I'm not the smartest cookie in the cookie jar. So, if I've offended anybody by, anything I've said or quoted or anything of that sort, I apologize, but, bring me some information, and I'm willing to read it. I'm willing to research. I know that I have growth, as long as I live, I still have growth and perspective that, that I haven't encountered. But going forward, with this election, I guess I hope that the media wakes up and stops spouting a bunch of lies and a bunch of side occurrences that don't happen all the time, and try to make them mainstream like they do happen all the time. I mean, if anything is inciting anything around the U.S., it's the media. And hopefully it's a landslide for Trump. I can't see it in my heart of hearts. I can't see it happening any other way if everything was truthful, and I'm hoping that things show to be truthful. I mean, the amount of people of every age, color, creed that Trump had showing up at his rallies compared to the amount of people that Biden had showing up, honking horns in a stupid parking lot, 6, 8, 10 cars. I mean, give me a break. There's no excitement around Biden. He has nothing new. He regurgitates old lies, old things that have been found out to be untruthful. He brings them up like they're truth again. That's every indication of his platform is weak. If you dive into anything that he talks about and deals with, it's a weak stance. It's a pandering to a side contingent of people that have not found themselves capable of living in society with other people. They are cloistered. They live in a box of their own making and don't wish for anybody to bust them out of it. And I just hope, we as conservatives, I don't label myself as a Republican. I'm probably libertarian conservative of the most part. And because I know Republicans have rhinos too. And and so I would hope that we as conservatives, we as faith-based people, give those that are, maybe voted for the other side the benefit of the doubt, allow them to breathe, in their loss, allow them to have dignity outside of, in the fact that they, voted for the person that lost or whatever the case may be, that we are able to come back together as a community of Americans believing, the same things that have been in the past for our children and I guess have happened to us for our children going forward. Because if it goes the other way, we're in a heap of trouble. If the anarchists and Antifa and the BLM folks that are militant, that are beating up people in the street, if that is the rule of the day going forward, there is going to be a backlash. There is going to be, and I guarantee you, the silent majority that they never hear about, that they never thought existed, is going to stand up in full force, and there will be a bad day.
Yeah.
You guys think we're heading towards civil war of some sort? If
that is left unfettered, if that is left unfettered, and if the law enforcement allows themselves to be cut off at the knees and not being, and the county attorneys and the attorney generals of the states and the attorney generals of the federal government are behind this, are scared of, political repercussions.
Mhm.
I mean, if it's a Trump win, those people should be emboldened to follow the rule of law, to impress the rule of law upon people. Again, that are defiant. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about let's go out and just arrest everybody that blinks an eye at law enforcement. That's not the way. That is not the way. That's not even close to the way.
Mhm.
If you do something wrong, you need to come before the judge. I mean,
Right.
that's just the way it happens, and that's the way it needs to be in order to maintain. It's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As long as for myself, right? If I judge myself with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as long as I don't hinder your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that is a good environment. That's an environment that I would want to raise and bring my kids forth in, and continue to be proud of as a country, and stand behind, going forward. But if we get to the point where it's somebody else's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as they perceive it on any given day, over mine, then that's not going to last.
Yeah.
That'll tear apart, that'll rip this country in two and 3 and 4 parts probably. So we need to realize the privilege we've all had in this world compared to other countries, compared to other cultures, compared to other regions and nationalities. We need to realize the American privilege and be proud of it, not to the fact of, holding it over somebody's heads, but cherishing it, and making sure that movement is perfected as we move forward. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for somebody to make a better way for themselves and for their communities. We've got to start in our homes. We can't expect the federal government to legislate how we act in our homes. We have to act right in our homes. And if we act right in our homes, we're going to create good citizens for our communities. And when we have good citizens for our communities, we're going to create great states. And when we have great states, we'll have a great country. And only it starts at the home, I'm telling you. And only if we, look at ourselves truthfully, open our hearts every day to the word and to a guidance that is greater than ourselves, is the only time that we're going to be able and capable of creating a good home environment for our children. I think that's where it's, I think that's been my underlying theme all night long is just protect the kids.
And that's the idea. Like I said, we're in when you were talking about parenting and the family, and you're like, oh, sorry, I kind of went off there, and I was like, no, it definitely has to do with the conversation. We have dueling ideologies. That was funny. But the left, whether they know it or not, or at least the controlling part ideas, the controlling members that push the ideas, not necessarily the voter, but by default, you're voting to deconstruct the family. The things that the left has been doing for decades has been removing fathers from the homes, and not to, go down that whole, path, but has been anti-family, anti-nuclear family unit, like BLM is openly. Well, I think they took it off their website, but if you don't believe it, I have a screenshot of what it was on their website. To deconstruct the westernized nuclear family, the mother and the father raising a child. And you're saying, from the libertarian, right Christian perspective, you're saying it starts with family. If we have a good family unit, we raise good children, they make a good community. The good community makes a good town, a good city, good state, a good nation. Man, and that's That's the idea. That's the two biggest things outside of all the other things that it could be clouded with. That's overarching, like what is really, going to affect us. And I want you guys to know, I don't know if you guys can take a look at the comments when you get a chance, but you've been asked to come back, the both of you. They want us to do this again. And I'm telling you, I don't Trey and T, I definitely appreciated both Paul and Philip. Both your contributions were unbelievable. I loved it. Loved it. Like I said, I'm sitting back, like just like like I'm audience, just like listening. But I really enjoyed it. I really appreciate your time. I'm as honored as you guys are to have you, as you are to be here. So
thank you, bro.
And the love is reciprocated. So definitely want to thank you guys. And we will definitely set this up again. Set this up again. I'm not going to worry our audience or your families any longer. So we'll go ahead and, say goodnight, for the evening. Unless there's any, final thought or final goodbye from anyone. I don't want to,
All good.
Appreciate them being on.
Yeah. Keith, thank you, brother, for inviting me. It was an honor to be a part of this awesome podcast. Philip, it was a pleasure meeting you, brother. I mean, so many insightful words. My man T-Sock, salute. You know what I mean?
My brother.
Good to see you again. Good to see you face to face. And Sheree, God bless you, sis. But this was an awesome time. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to piggyback on what Philip said and what you said, Keith, and then now I'll let it go. I think there was a libertarian that said this. He said that family is the bedrock of every society, every civilization. And whenever the family unit is dismantled or deconstructed, society falls apart.
Yeah.
So what they're doing, the Democrat Party is doing, or the left of the Democratic Party is doing, is literally trying to keep the family unit at a wasted, like family structure being a wasteland, and replacing that with something that is a substitute or alternate, and I think we is taking a man replacing with a trans man, taking a woman replacing with a trans woman, and taking kids and allowing the child to identify with whatever gender they feel is acceptable for the moment. And once we allow that, I guess, that philosophy to continue to take root and to spring forth in our society, we're in a whole world of trouble. And the only thing that could combat that is going to be aggression and and a severe pushback. And hopefully that won't be the case. But where we are right now, I don't see it changing. But again, we'll see what happens after the election. And but once again, thank you, bros. I appreciate it. Much love to all of you. To the glory of God.
Let the church say amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, look, we'll definitely be in touch to set this up again. Set up a different topic of conversation soon. Won't let it be too long. I knew. No disrespect, Philip, but I knew, look, when I got the okay from, Paul and him saying I'm in, I'm like, all right, if we just got Paul, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. We'll have something to do here, but I had no idea, what Philip would bring to the table and how that would affect things. That's awesome. But, so, all right.
Appreciate it.
I'll just say, I'm going to go ahead and drop, after this is all, published and everything, I'm going to put some things in the description that I think is helpful to the listener. We didn't get to touch on, but maybe we'll come back and follow up. We definitely, with the way the course is going, I don't know if a lot of people are hearing about this, but you can look at the World Economic Forum and the plan of global reset of what they're trying to do COVID-19 and to push not just debt resetting and like capitalist system reset, right? But it's intertwined with intersectionality, doctrine and philosophy, which is a lot of the leftist, mind frame or whatever. But definitely look that up. And the Federal Reserve having interest. And I think doesn't matter. I'll find some things to link, but Federal Reserve having interest in actually, they really didn't like the fact that, once the stimulus went out, that we end up saving and paying down debt rather than spending money. So, yeah, I mean, that was the whole point, was to get us spending, and, God, we were responsible, especially millennials. Millennials were putting it in the stock market and investing, and that's not what they wanted. But instead of being a consumer, but the Federal Reserve is really pushing for them to provide a digital currency. So for us to have basically a bank account directly with the Fed, which is a private bank, it's not part of the government, in case the listener doesn't know, they're going to push supposedly for UBI, and I don't want to get into quantitative easing and all the things that has to do with the economy and what they're doing to manipulate and control it, but UBI, universal basic income, where the Fed gives us a stipend, the Fed gives us a certain amount of money in our accounts every month to help solve this problem of future lockdowns, which they're pushing for, but to ultimately track and control where you spend the money, and then that way we, so it gets in kind of a Orwellian dark situation, but that's where we are anyway with censorship and the likes. We definitely will link some things and are going to talk about the Abraham Accords coming up, the peace deals, which are in one regard, wonderful and should be praised, that the Trump administration really doesn't get the credit for. But I don't know about other Christians, but from a biblical perspective, I'm like, peace deals with the Middle East. Okay, what, so look, that's definitely has our spider senses or, hairs on the back of our neck tingling, and among other things that I don't want to mention right now. So that's all things that we'll follow up, this podcast with the next one. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, man, I really, really thank you guys. I think everyone in the comments, it's equally from having the guests to having people in the comments. I love the live platform way better than our pre-recorded format that we were doing pre-COVID. So I think we're going to stick with the live, and that way we get to chat with a whole bunch of other people. That's what this whole podcast was originally for, was so that us, the brothers here who love doing this on the regular could share it with people that weren't necessarily, in this building or in our homes, and then eventually branch out and connect with brothers that like you guys that aren't where we are, but we have the capability to do so now. So it's really exciting to see that we're able to do that, so it's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, anything else? YouTube channel, ax2and42.com.
Subscribe.
Subscribe, smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
We had a couple smashed it, definitely appreciate it.
Big it up.
Right. Yeah. And definitely, if you really want to see this, and I know it's crazy, every YouTuber that I watch, I don't know about you guys, they have to say, now, if you want to actually be able to see our videos, here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because YouTube's going to do everything they can to, and our subscribers are telling me that. So go to ax2and42.com and actually subscribe on the website. You'll be on the mailing list. So when a new podcast goes out, if you don't hear about it on YouTube, I can send out to the mailing list, and you will hear about it from me, and you'll have access to whether listening or viewing. You can do all that on the website. So so to the audience, if you didn't know that, now you know. Anyway, guys, thank you. Good night. Pray before you go to bed, and we'll see what happens in the morning.
Most damn.
All right, guys, stay safe.
Right.
And
You too, brother.
once again, I thank you. So.
All right.